from this class or the next class who were doing their relearn packets there. Not one. Now, there were a couple of kids who were at extra help this morning doing it, but you need to understand, I will repeat this, and then the best way to learn is to suffer. But when you put it off till the end and you try to cram it in at the end, you will suffer because your grade will not go up much and you will do all of this work at the last minute for very little, if anything. On the other hand, if you get aggressive and work it from the beginning and do your work the way it's supposed to be done, you will get rapid improvement and you will be much better off. I do want to remind you that there might only be 2 tests this marking period, and that previous grade you got is one of them. There might be 3, it's going to be close. That previous grade you got is one of them. So if you don't do something about that, then you are going to suffer come the end of the market period. You have until March the 30th. I believe March the 30th is a week from today? No, Friday. Yes, it's a week from Friday. Or a week from Thursday. It's one or the other. So you have basically a little over a week. And you need to get this done. You must do the entire packet. Even if you only got one section wrong, I don't care. Just do the whole thing because the topic is that important. Are we clear? All right. So we take a look here. This is an exponential function. I'm not exactly sure what they want me to write for the parent function. So I wrote y equals b to the x for a base, whatever it is. You might have written y equals 2 to the x. The problem is that's a little specific. I tried to be a little bit more general. The transformation on this guy is that it's stretching times 3. Because ordinarily, at 1, you would go through this particular point right here. No, wait, 0, 1 is right. I'm sorry, you would normally go, let me look at this. You would normally go through, if x was 1 and it was y equals 2 to the x, you'd normally go through 2 here. So this is now done by a factor of 3. So it's going to be y equals 3 to the x. It's basically being made taller. Okay? You know it has to be y equals 3 to the x because it goes through the point 1, 3. Which means that if I plug in a 1 for x, I get 3 out of the deal. I'm going to show you something very, very cool that's going to help you get these equations in a few minutes. Okay? Next from last night's homework. This is a square root curve, but it's been made taller. If you notice, it should have went through 1, 1. Now it's going through 1, 2. The taller is the 2 here, and it should have been the square root curve. Okay? All right, so that's the kind of stuff we worked on yesterday. We're going to circle back and hit one of these again near the end of the homework sheet. And you can look at that. Those are, I would consider those very, very important questions because if you can do all of them, you can handle pretty much any type of factoring into a quadratic equation. And this is what was on that last test that gave a bunch of you guys some difficulty. Okay, next page. I didn't do the first one for completing the square because it's pretty straightforward. I think you can handle it. But I did do the second one because it involved a fraction. And we haven't done too many like this. So half of 3 halves is 3/4. And if you square it, you get 9/16. I add to this side. The process is exactly the same. The numbers are just uglier. But with a calculator, you should be able to do 1/4 plus 9/16. That shouldn't be a big deal. Bless you. All right, so there's the work shown right there. I do fear that on your Regents exam, they will put a completing the square with a decimal or with a fraction. I think I saw them once put one on with a decimal. Okay, so I think we need to be prepared for it. You can check your answers to the next ones. There's the last section there. Anything you guys have questions about? We're looking pretty good. How many people feel more comfortable with the sequences stuff now than they did, say, 2 weeks ago? All right, that's a little less than I would have hoped. I would have hoped we'd be rocking it by now. Okay, Chris, you have a question?
No.
Okay. If you, listen, here's the deal. I talk about this phrase all the time, academic maturity. If you're doing these homework questions and you're not getting these answers right, you need to be in extra help. There's this word called proactive. Proactive means you take care of things before they become a big problem. And what you want to do is, if you're not getting something right on the homework, you want to be in extra help, and you want to be saying to me, Ms. Lindquist, this question right here, this is giving me a hard time. Carissa did a great job with that this morning. She walked in, she knew exactly what she wanted to talk about. She said, radicals, they're driving me crazy. Let's do radicals. So we addressed them right away. Now, if you do that for a couple days in a row, if there are 2 radical questions on the next test, she'll get the radical questions right instead of wrong, and she just upped her grade by about 8 or 10 points. That's what we're looking for all you guys to do. Be more proactive. Okay, this is a cubic. The parent function then would be y equals x cubed. And what I notice here is it's got a vertical shift up 2. A big question is, how do I know it has a vertical shift of up 2? And if you look at the general parent function, y equals x cubed, it normally goes through 0, 0. And now it's going to go through 0, 2. And then it would normally go through 2, 8, but it's going through 2, 10. So I can see that everything is shifted up 2. So it's y equals x cubed plus 2, okay? And here are the last few questions. I didn't do the last one with the quadratic formula. I ran out of time. Yes?
How would you solve each x?
How would I solve h of x? That means plug in a -7 and then plug in a 27. And the biggest thing about h of x is it's a piecewise function. So you have to look up which rule to use. For example, I use this rule if the x value is between -infinity and -2. -7 is clearly in that range, so I use this rule. But 27 is not in there. It's greater than -2, so I have to use this rule. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. So, today's quiz. I should say today's do it. Let's get that out, take a look. While you're doing that, I just want to open up today's sheet. Today's sheet is number 31, I believe? 32? Most of the lesson is this do it right here to see how you did on it. We're just going to work again what we did yesterday. I don't think we mastered what we did yesterday, so I want to make sure we come back to it. Okay, so I think you should have recognized that it's quadratic. I think that part of this is easy. I think you know the parent function is y equals x squared. Let's talk about transformations. I think everybody should notice that we've shifted 1 to the right and up 2. But what about this stretch factor? How do you know that it's been stretched or made taller by a factor of 3? And the way you know that is this. Remember how when we did the list of perfect squares, we did 0, 1, 4, 9, and we said that normally you go up by 1 for the first thing? So we would normally go from here to here and over to here. But instead I'm going up 3. So instead of going up 1, which is normally what you do from the beginning or bottom point, I went up 3. So that means I had to multiply this 1 by 3, which means that you have a stretch factor of 3 in there. And this is your horizontal shift of 1 to the right, and this is your vertical shift of up 2. Okay? Now, let's talk about cheating. How many people here like to cheat? Tell the truth. Come on, tell the truth. Oh, you liars, liars, liars. You all like to cheat. And the state lets you cheat. They give you this. When I was your age, I never got this. Nor did those who have as much hair as I do. So, let's get out your calculator. And let us go to Stat Edit.
I forgot this was a thing.
Okay, so we go to Stat Edit, and now clear out L1 and L2. Remember, get the cursor up there, and then hit Clear Enter. Cursor up at the top, L1, L2, Clear Enter. And then I want you to do the following. I want you to input these 3 data points. This coordinate, and you do all the x's in L1. So that would be 0, 1, 2, and then all of these values for L2. I think that's 5, 2, 5. So put all of those into L1 and L2. You only need those 3 points. That'll be enough. Okay? Another couple of seconds here to get that done. Now, there is a function on your calculator that we've hinted at already this year, and we are hinting at again today, and as one of the last units before we're completely done with the course, we're going to pound it. But for now, it's a cool thing to have. Go to Stat Calc, and if you scroll down, one of them you see will be quad regression, or QUAD-REG. That's short for quadratic regression. We know this is a quadratic because it's a parabola. And the regression means give me the formula. Give me the function rule. So hit Enter and work your way until it gives you a final answer. Okay? Have you got it? Then Sarah E., you're doing something wrong. Did you put in L1 and L2?
No.
That'll do it. If you don't have the stuff in L1 and L2, you cannot get it right. Now, so I bet your answer looks a little bit different than the answer they gave, or the answer I came up with before. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about why they're the same. What answer did they give?
Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c.
Yes, and then they tell you ABC.
Yeah. A is 3, b is
Oh, all it. Projection mode. Hey. Good. All right, so y equals 3x squared. Keep going.
b is negative 6,
Minus 6x
and c is 5.
plus 5. Okay. So I'm saying that this guy down here is the answer. Hey, I'm saying this guy down here is the answer. They're saying this is the answer. Let's do a little algebra. X minus 1 squared means x minus 1 times x minus 1 plus 2, 3 in the front. I'm going to do this a little quickly in my head. Hey, have your head in the game. I'm going to do this a little quickly in my head. This is going to be x squared minus 2x plus 1 times 3 plus 2, which is going to be 3x squared minus 6x plus 3 plus 2, which makes plus 5. So 3x squared minus 6x plus 5, 3x squared minus 6x plus 5. This is what we call your standard quadratic form, like the quadratic formula form where you get A, B, and C. This is not called the standard form. This is called the vertex form. Vertex form talks about horizontal and vertical shift, but the two equations are equal to each other. So it's not like the calculator is wrong or the vertex form is wrong. It's two different ways of looking at or naming the same thing. For example, I could say Sydney, or I could say patient 0. We all know it's the same exact thing we're talking about. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? All right, you with me on that? Can I get a witness? That means yes, amen, right? Can I get a witness? Si, senor, that works too. Okay. Now, today's lesson plan. We just did the do it. Start. Talk to the person around you. Communicate. We have about 2 minutes for you to give these answers, and then I'll go over it with you. This is today's lesson in its entirety. If they're asking for the formula, and if you want to, you can plug in coordinates and go with the L1 and L2 and use a quadratic regression. Unless they say vertex form, then you have to do the vertex form.
Distance from the far wall.
Okay. What's the parent function?
X squared.
Y equals x squared. Good. Y equals, not just x squared. What are the units involved? It's feet in time, which is feet in seconds. Key features, vertex and zeros, right? What transformations were made? Well, we've got some vertical and some horizontal shift. Horizontal shift is 6. Vertical shift is 90. So, I'm not exactly sure what they mean by general analytic representation. It's a parabola. The parameters are that it's the distance from the wall in here. You could plug in 0, what is that, 6? I guess that's a 6, and 12 for L1, 0, 90, and this for L2. But your vertex form is going to be y equals, I don't know what the stretch factor is. I can figure that out in a second. I'm going from 90 to 70, so that's 12 times x minus 6 squared plus 90. And that will be your vertex form of the function. All right? Any questions about this? All right, work more on it tonight. We will further discuss that tomorrow. Good morning, Mr. Hour. How are you today?
Toys. Look at this. There's so many.
Good morning, Hour. Oh yeah, I brought toys in too. Very good.
What were we supposed to
Who else brought toys in?
I didn't know what
See, I brought in 4.
I didn't know what we had to bring.
Spencer, I think between you and I, we have all 10. Do you want to run this to Mrs. Bing? You're going to Mr. Duran now anyway, right?
No.
No, Jim.
Oh, who has Mr. Duran next?
We go.
Oh, well, Spencer, you bring him up.
Yeah, we go straight to Earth Science on Tuesday.
Ah, okay.